I've got 10 more Midjourney styles here for you today. Just add these to the end of your prompt separated by a comma and you'll get images similar to the ones you see on the screen right now. We're starting with Chinese ink painting style, which is similar to one we've had in the past, but we do get some slightly different results with a lot of the text, like Chinese symbols around the image, but we still get that really cool dripping style. Also, the colors, you seem to see a lot of black and red, like this picture of Batman. I actually really like the way it added the paint brushes and sort of messy sort of paint around it. Move on to Super Mario, we get this cool kind of like cartoon style, but like a painted cartoon style, and it just looks like a really cool image. And Darth Vader, I love the way the cape sort of turns into ink splats and drips, and it has a really cool effect like of how he is actually solid and there's like a stain around his head for some reason, but just the way the cape flutters off to the left I think is a really nifty effect. And the woman's face, something a bit different than what I expected, but still just a really cool way it's handled that image. The modern family home, it's like a painting of a modern home with a bit of a Chinese aesthetic added to it, and it just has a really nice peaceful look to the image. And Lego surrealism. So this is kind of like using Lego to create these images, but sort of like a touch of a surreal effect for like some of the bits and pieces sort of like scattering off the nose on the woman's face. And Batman with the bats in the background. It looks like an actual image. And I think a lot of the time when you work with surrealism, it tries to put random objects in the sky. And this one has converted it to bats with a Batman figure that I think looks pretty spot on. And Darth Vader, kind of like that beach. He's on the beach, like a very tall Lego built Darth Vader, some bits and pieces in the sky and a massive moon. It adds a sense of a more artistic creativity to the images other than just rendering it as a Lego figure. And a beautiful waterfall in nature has that nice sort of, again, that artistic look to it with the sort of like Lego building, but like that really colorful sky added to it. And Pikachu, he's in the sky, and as they tends to happen with a lot of these surreal images, you have that sky with a few bits and pieces floating around, and they've added that here. And the Incredible Hulk, the way it's added the pieces, it's like he's smashing the concrete, and he's got the typical Lego figurine head, which I thought was kind of funny, with the pieces flying around him. I thought that was a really cool sort of use of this prompt. And revealed cross-section. This is a really cool, once again, similar to something in the past, but again, just a bit better in my opinion. We move on to the woman's face, and we can reveal what's inside, which is like a rose and a few things that aren't really skull and bone and muscle, but interesting nonetheless. We move on to the Incredible Hulk, and we get like this little kind of like weird green man inside of him, some tubes and like machinery, and the way it's split up and added different things in there I thought was pretty nifty. We move on to Batman. There's like a skull inside his head but facing the other way. Just nice and creepy the way it's done that. And Super Mario, he's like a massive building, and you can see inside the rooms and bits and pieces going on in there. And if you take a close look, there's some interesting little sort of like objects in there, but they haven't quite rendered out because they're small, but it's just interesting. And the Terminator, the way that the basically like the chimney comes out of his nose is pretty cool. We've got people inside the building, very different, and just a really cool way to transform the picture of the Terminator endoskull. And Pikachu, he is a part of something. I don't know how this works, but I love the way he's kind of wrapped up in a cross-section, trapped inside of it, almost like he's turning into something else. And holographic mirrored juxtaposition. This was just a really nifty effect. And the way we've added Batman, he's kind of mirrored from one side to the other, and we've got that holographic effect there. I really like the way that it works, and that highlight really adds a sense of realism to it. And the woman's face. It's not mirrored, but the two of them there kind of still works, and we get that holographic sort of light spectrum sort of flowing over the top of the face. And Pikachu, he is mirrored, and again, that holographic effect. It has that real glow-in-the-dark style to it, like a light-up sort of figure. I really enjoyed like what it did with this image. And the Hulk, for some reason, he's staring at a smaller Hulk. I guess this is a Hulk that's taking possibly less gear than he is, so he's looking in the mirror, or maybe that's what he sees when he looks in the mirror, because everyone feels like they are smaller than they actually are when they're doing weightlifting. And Darth Vader, I love the way he's actually central, and he's mirrored at the back, but there's two of them. And the colors, it's very sort of iridescent, just a really interesting image. And Darth Vader tends to be transformed pretty well with some of these prompts. Now, if you haven't already, check out my Midjourney style pack. Over 1,000 styles you can apply to your Midjourney prompts to get some pretty stunning images. It comes with a handful of PDFs of different styles and categories so you can quickly find what you're after. And there's a link in the description. Now back to the video. Rapid movement. Trying to introduce some movement into an image. I thought I'd try something just like rapid movement to sort of capture that energy. And you can see the woman's face. It's she's not really moving, but there's a lot of like light and that moving around her. When you move on to the car, you can tell that car is at lightning speed, and the motion blur and the really high contrast imagery, even that bit of a greeny sort of tint to it, really makes for a nice picture. And Batman is springing into action, and I like the way his cape's kind of fading off. He's missing a leg as well, unless it's behind him. But again, just another really good example of like movement in the image. And Pikachu, he looks like he's moved so fast that his hair's frazzled and he's been caught in a really sharp frame. But the motion blur in the tail, everything there, it's an interesting sort of like addition to the image. And Darth Vader is running. He's missed the bus to the Death Star and he is running late, so he's off. And someone happened to snap this nice black and white photo at the time. And Mario, same deal. He's running much faster though, so he's got a lot of motion blur and very rapid. And I thought it was a nice little addition to images to be able to just add in some form of movement. And VHS glitch 3D render. So taking a few different things we've done in the past and combining them, we get this really cool glitch effect and a 3D render image style applied to it as well. I love the way we have the reds and the greens sort of separating. We move on to Batman, and it's like a 3D render of Batman, but it just adds a little something extra to the image. There's like a sense of depth to it when you add the 3D render, while you still get that nice sort of color separation. The Incredible Hulk. Now this image, like I said, that sense of depth. You feel like you can reach in and almost grab the Hulk, but it's still got that VHS glitch to it. I don't know how else to explain it, but I really appreciate this image. And Mario, again, that depth feeling, and it's just a really interesting image. Instead of having like that TV effect with the dotted sort of like RGB lights or scan lines, it's actually applied to a 3D model of him in a way. Very interesting combination. In Darth Vader, we get a similar effect again. Of course, when Darth Vader is 3D, he just looks like a photograph because it's a smooth helmet, but still a good result. Exploding elements. I thought this was a pretty nifty, once again, playing with movement. If you add it to the woman's face, it looks like she is filled with fire and about to explode. And you move on to the samurai standing in front of Mount Fuji, and Mount Fuji has exploded. So there's lots of bits and pieces in the air. The samurai's just standing there calmly in a very Budo fashion looking at it. And Mario looks like he's about to explode or unleash some explosive power on some kind of enemy like Bowser. And I really like the way that the fire and the warm colors are kind of offset by the darker blues. It's not just black or something like that, but the dark blue makes for a really nice balance of color in this image. And the beautiful waterfall in nature. The rocks are kind of just exploding up in the air like someone's blown something up at the bottom of the waterfall. And Batman, he is slowly it's like the beginning of the explosion. If you freeze framed right before he just sort of like went off. And finally, Darth Vader. So this is kind of what would happen, I guess, if one of the rebels came along and just shot him and he couldn't deflect it. I guess it would be a pretty sad end to Darth Vader. Not quite as good as what we got, but I thought this image was pretty cool. Like, he looks like he's actually exploding. Mortal Kombat style. Now, I just thought this was a really interesting thing. Not so much for Mortal Kombat, but the characters tend to be kind of warriored up. So you got here the Hulk, he's got a headband. You can't see the top of the headband, but you can see the back of it sort of blowing in the breeze. The way he has a wristband on one of his arms that goes under his skin is interesting, but the belt and style of that, it looks like he's a warrior about to go into battle. But it also adds in a bit of a 3D look. And you see here with Mario, I mean, he already looks 3D in a lot of stuff, but the way they've added the warrior muscles and sort of stuff to his outfit is really cool. And you can see here with the Terminator, instead of that realistic look, it's been dialed back to a 3D look. And he's got like a samurai sword handle sticking out the back. So you know he's got a sword ready to go, ready to fight. And Darth Vader has a slightly more samurai type look to him. Kind of reminds me, I guess, of maybe it's drawing from Shang Tsung or some of the other people from Mortal Kombat, but an interesting touch with the gold. And samurai standing in front of Mount Fuji. The imagery itself is the same, but the style. It has that kind of like dull colors, that 3D style. It actually kind of reminds me of what you might see in a Mortal Kombat sort of like cinematic. And Pikachu dressed up, not quite like Scorpion, but Scorpion-esque in the outfit. A little bit of Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat 2. But essentially, just looks like a warrior and a 3D style render. This is a great way to create like a 3D warrior style out of your images. And the beautiful waterfall in nature. There's nothing Mortal Kombat about this, but again, that 3D render style looks like a 3D cinematic or cinematic scene from a game. Finally, Batman. I think they've tried to apply a little bit of a Scorpion style to this with the mouthpiece. So the bits of gold added in there, really cool. And you can see a little bit of skin on the arms. So it's kind of slowly converted him into more of a Mortal Kombat character. Also, the armor on the shoulders sticking out. Just another cool addition. And a woman's face. We've got a very Sub-Zero sort of katana look. Very cool. And this is just... And even the little details, like in the actual material covering the mouth and nose, I thought was pretty cool. And dreamy atmosphere tends to, not every time, but tends to create this sort of color palette and add in a lot of clouds and a lot of calmness to the image. If you move to the Terminator, this is one of the few that is probably a little less like what I just described straight off the bat. The red clouds, so you still get the clouds in there, you still get the red and a little bit of calmness, but there's still that sense of danger. The fact that he has green eyes instead of red I thought was interesting also. And Darth Vader looks like he's just died and gone to Sith heaven, and he's thinking about what to do next, although it looks a little bit peaceful for Sith heaven, but very dreamy, calm photo. And the Hulk, once again, there's like that weird sort of void and calm kind of cloud nature. It's like he's just arrived somewhere and he's a little bit confused. And Mario, very happy, dream state. This is very much the brightest, happiest image I got from this particular sort of phrase, but the way it's added it in, and it's really kind of stuck to the game aesthetic a little bit, but then really upgraded it into something truly visual and very 3D. And the futuristic car, it really found those colors and applied it. The way it has the loop coming off the lights at the front I thought was a bit weird, but the colors, the clouds, the calm, serene feel you get is definitely reminiscent of what you get from this phrase. And a beautiful waterfall in nature just looks like a peaceful shot. The way the sun shines through the top and just sort of lights everything up, and there's that nice, calm, peaceful nature feel to it. Definitely a dreamy sort of effect. And vintage abstract graphic design. You add it to the Incredible Hulk, we get more of a graphic design style. It looks like it's on an old printed thing from like maybe 50, 60 years ago, and I like the style of it. Pikachu, once again, it's got that real single color, not single color, but flat color print style to it, like the black's been laid down, and then the yellow ink and the red ink, like a 3-ink process that looks very vintage. And the Terminator, we get a vintage graphic design style again, just like 3 colors, white, black, and red. But some of the elements are a bit more modern in there. Maybe that's sort of just the graphic design coming out, but the print style looks kind of vintage. And Darth Vader looks just like they got vintage colors and a triangle, like very basic graphic design idea, but with the vintage kind of color palette and print style. And the futuristic car, the print style is not there this time, but the way it's laid out with the circle, the lines, it does have a bit of a classic look and feel to it, and especially the colors used in the car and the design of the car itself. And the woman's face, once again, very vintage. Just looks like something you'd find. This looks much older. I would say this looks like maybe something you would have found lying around 70 or 80 years ago that's aged but still been pretty well looked after. And Batman, we get another vintage look. This looks corroded, old, like it was printed up in the 60s. And yeah, it's just the flatness. I really like the flatness to it. And the abstract sort of like layout just sort of like messes with it a bit. The vintage seems to be more of a color issue or a print issue, but overall, it just has a really cool effect on these images. And I have a bonus style this week, which is Nike style, or Nike style, depending on how you prefer to pronounce it. We have the Incredible Hulk. He's wearing Nikes, and looks like this is part of an ad campaign where the Hulk is, showing off that fit, angry green people can also wear Nikes. And then, of course, he has his own style of Nike shoe that comes from that. And a few of these I'm going to basically touch on a few times because I really like some of the different results. Futuristic car has a Nike symbol on the side. That looks like an expensive car, but very cool, very sleek. And Mario has his Nike shoes on and he's about to hit the street. His streetwear is a little bit cooler too, so it just goes to show you when you've got that Nike style, you tend to up your street game a little bit as well. And Pikachu, he's got his Nike jumper on and he's not wearing Nike shoes, but overall, it's a cool looking image. It reminds me of something from the 90s actually. And Darth Vader, he's got a completely different set of pants on and some Nike shoes. He's showing off his latest purchase. He must have some Nike Tracky Dacks or something as well. Definitely a little bit different for Darth Vader. And Batman just produced this really cool Batman themed Nike shoe. I could definitely wear that, I think, if I had access to it. And the Terminator, another Nike shoe design based on the Terminator. So a lot of the time you will get people wearing Nikes or a Nike shoe based off what you've put into the prompt. So definitely check that out. It's a lot of fun and see what Nikes you can come up with. But otherwise, that's the video for today, guys. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please consider giving the video a like. Also, don't forget, if you are looking for something to help out with your Midjourney prompts, check out my Midjourney cheat sheet linked to below in the description. Otherwise, have a great day. I hope to see you again soon.